When my mother violently grabbed my 7-year-old daughter by the hair and dragged her across the kitchen floor during what was supposed to be a peaceful family dinner, I never imagined that moment would lead to criminal charges filed by my own husband, the state's attorney general. What happened next changed everything I thought I knew about family loyalty, protection, and the courage required to break generational cycles of abuse. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. My name is Rebecca Matthews, and at 34 years old, I have spent the majority of my adult life navigating the delicate balance between family obligations and personal boundaries. The story I am about to share represents a turning point that forced me to choose between maintaining family peace and protecting my child from the same patterns of dysfunction that had shaped my own childhood experience. The foundation of this story begins not with the dramatic incident that would ultimately lead to legal proceedings, but rather with the complex family dynamics that had been building tension for decades. Understanding how we reached that breaking point requires examination of the relationships, expectations, and unresolved conflicts that created the conditions for such an explosive confrontation. I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, as the eldest daughter in a family where appearances mattered more than authentic emotional connection. My mother, Patricia Whitmore, built her identity around maintaining the facade of a perfect Southern family while wielding control through emotional manipulation, guilt, and occasional physical intimidation. My father, Robert Whitmore, served as a successful cardiologist whose demanding career provided him with convenient excuses to avoid addressing the dysfunction that permeated our household. The Whitmore family operated according to unspoken rules that prioritized maternal authority above all other considerations. My mother's word was absolute law, her emotions dictated the household atmosphere, and any challenge to her perspective was met with swift punishment that ranged from silent treatment to explosive verbal confrontations. These patterns, established early in my childhood, would continue to influence family interactions well into my adulthood. My mother's approach to parenting combined traditional Southern expectations with her own need for control and validation. She demanded excellence in academic performance, social behavior, and appearance while providing conditional love that depended entirely upon compliance with her standards. Achievements were acknowledged briefly before attention shifted to areas requiring improvement, while failures or disappointments resulted in extended periods of criticism and emotional withdrawal. The relationship between my parents modeled a dynamic where my father's professional success provided him with authority in financial decisions, while my mother maintained complete control over family relationships and social interactions. This division of power created an environment where emotional needs were rarely addressed directly, conflicts were avoided rather than resolved, and individual preferences were subordinated to family image management. During my childhood and adolescence, I learned to navigate this environment by becoming exceptionally skilled at anticipating my mother's emotional needs and adjusting my behavior accordingly. I developed heightened sensitivity to mood changes, learned to diffuse tension through compliance or distraction, and internalized the belief that maintaining family harmony was my responsibility, regardless of personal cost. These adaptive strategies served me well within the confines of my family system, but created challenges when I began forming relationships outside the household. I struggled with assertiveness, had difficulty identifying and expressing my own needs, and tended to prioritize others' comfort over my own well-being. These patterns would significantly influence my romantic relationships and ultimately my approach to marriage and motherhood. My academic performance throughout high school and college reflected both my natural intelligence and my deep-seated need to meet external expectations. I graduated valedictorian from Richmond Academy, earned a full scholarship to the University of Virginia, and completed my degree in communications with highest honors. These achievements provided validation and opened doors to professional opportunities, but they also reinforced my belief that love and acceptance were conditional upon exceptional performance. During my junior year at the University of Virginia, I met David Matthews, a law student who would eventually become both my husband and the state's attorney general. David represented everything I had been taught to value in a potential partner: intelligence, ambition, strong family background, and clear professional trajectory. Our relationship developed gradually through shared academic interests, similar social circles, and what appeared to be compatible life goals. David's family background provided a stark contrast to my own upbringing. The Matthews family emphasized open communication, mutual respect, and genuine affection in their daily interactions. Family dinners involved animated discussions about current events, personal interests, and future plans without the undercurrent of judgment or emotional manipulation that characterized my own family gatherings. This difference was both refreshing and unsettling, as it highlighted aspects of my upbringing that I had accepted as normal. The Matthews family welcomed me warmly, but their natural intimacy and emotional authenticity initially felt overwhelming. I found myself carefully monitoring my words and behavior, searching for hidden expectations or potential sources of conflict that simply did not exist in their family dynamic. David's parents, Margaret and William Matthews, demonstrated the kind of partnership I had rarely witnessed, treating each other with consistent kindness and addressing disagreements through direct conversation rather than passive-aggressive manipulation. David himself embodied many qualities I admired while possessing an emotional intelligence and communication style that challenged me to be more authentic in our relationship. He encouraged me to express my opinions, supported my career aspirations, and demonstrated patience when my family of origin patterns created unnecessary conflict or misunderstanding between us. His commitment to justice and public service aligned with values I respected, even when his career demands created challenges for our personal relationship. Our courtship progressed through the traditional stages expected by both families, culminating in an engagement during my senior year and marriage 6 months after graduation. The wedding planning process provided early insights into the ongoing challenges we would face in managing the relationship between my mother's expectations and our desire to establish independent family traditions. My mother approached wedding planning as an opportunity to demonstrate her social standing and exert control over significant life decisions that she believed reflected upon the entire family reputation. Every detail from venue selection to guest list composition became potential battlegrounds where my preferences conflicted with her vision of appropriate choices for a Whitmore family wedding. David's family maintained diplomatic neutrality during these conflicts, while privately expressing concern about my mother's behavior and its impact on my stress levels. Margaret Matthews gently suggested strategies for managing difficult family dynamics, while William offered perspective based on his experience with challenging clients in his legal practice. Their support provided valuable context for understanding that my mother's behavior was not normal or acceptable, even within traditional family hierarchies. The wedding itself proceeded according to my mother's specifications, creating a beautiful event that satisfied her social objectives while leaving me feeling disconnected from what should have been a celebration of my relationship with David. This experience established a pattern that would continue throughout our marriage, my mother's needs and preferences, taking precedence over our independent decision-making as a couple. Following our wedding, David and I settled in Charleston, South Carolina, where he accepted a position with the state prosecutor's office while I began working for a public relations firm specializing in nonprofit organizations. The geographic distance from both families provided necessary space for us to establish our own traditions and decision-making processes without constant external input or interference. The early years of our marriage were characterized by professional growth, deepening emotional intimacy, and the gradual development of our own family culture. David's career advanced rapidly due to his exceptional legal skills and commitment to public service, while I built expertise in communications strategy and advocacy work that aligned with my desire to contribute to meaningful social causes. However, the distance from Richmond also created ongoing tension with my mother, who interpreted our independence as rejection of family values and personal betrayal of her investment in my upbringing. She maintained regular contact through phone calls and visits that often included subtle criticism of our lifestyle choices, geographic location, and emerging family traditions that differed from Whitmore family practices. These interactions required careful management to prevent them from disrupting our marriage or causing unnecessary conflict between David and my parents. I found myself serving as a buffer between my mother's expectations and our actual life decisions, often withholding information about our activities or plans to avoid lengthy discussions about why our choices were disappointing or inappropriate. The birth of our daughter Emily 5 years into our marriage marked a significant shift in family dynamics, that would eventually lead to the crisis that defines this story. Emily's arrival brought tremendous joy to our household while simultaneously intensifying my mother's involvement in our daily life decisions and creating new opportunities for generational conflict about parenting approaches. My mother viewed Emily's birth as validation of her own maternal expertise and an opportunity to ensure that proper family traditions were maintained across generations. She began making more frequent visits to Charleston, offering unsolicited advice about childcare practices, and expressing disappointment when our parenting decisions differed from her recommendations or family precedents. The conflict between my mother's traditional authoritarian parenting philosophy and David's more collaborative approach created ongoing tension that intensified as Emily developed her own personality and preferences. My mother believed that children should demonstrate unquestioning obedience to adult authority, while David encouraged Emily to express her thoughts and participate in age-appropriate decision-making about her activities and preferences. These philosophical differences manifested in practical disagreements about discipline strategies, educational choices, social activities, and everyday routines. My mother interpreted our more flexible approach as permissiveness that would result in behavioral problems and lack of respect for authority. She frequently commented that Emily was becoming, quote, spoiled or willful, and needed firmer discipline to develop proper character. Emily, now 7 years old, had developed into a bright, curious, and independent child who possessed the confidence to express her preferences and ask questions about rules or expectations. These qualities, which David and I valued and encouraged, were precisely the characteristics that my mother found challenging and inappropriate in a child. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The mounting tension between my mother's expectations and our family's actual functioning created an increasingly unstable situation that required constant management to prevent explosive confrontations. I found myself once again serving as a mediator, attempting to satisfy my mother's need for control while protecting Emily from the same emotional manipulation and intimidation that had characterized my own childhood. This balancing act became increasingly difficult as Emily grew older and more capable of recognizing the difference between her grandmother's behavior and the respectful treatment she received from her parents and other adults in her life. Emily began asking questions about why Grandma Patricia was always angry, and why visits with her often resulted in tears or arguments. David observed these dynamics with growing concern about the impact on both Emily and my own emotional well-being. As a prosecutor with extensive experience in family violence cases, he recognized patterns of emotional abuse and manipulation that I had normalized due to my upbringing. His professional perspective provided valuable insight into the dysfunction, while creating additional complexity in our approach to managing family relationships. The situation reached a critical point during my mother's most recent visit to Charleston, ostensibly to celebrate Emily's 7th birthday but actually serving as another opportunity for her to assert control over our family decisions and express disapproval of our parenting approach. The visit began with familiar patterns of criticism disguised as helpful suggestions, progressed through escalating tension over minor disagreements, and culminated in the violent incident that would forever change our family dynamics. Understanding the foundation of these relationships, the historical patterns that shaped our interactions, and the increasing pressure that had been building for months, provides essential context for comprehending how a family dinner could explode into violence and ultimately result in criminal charges against my own mother. The incident itself was shocking in its intensity, but it was also the inevitable culmination of decades of dysfunction that could no longer be managed through accommodation and avoidance. The story that follows chronicles not only the immediate crisis and its legal resolution, but also the longer journey of breaking generational patterns, establishing healthy boundaries, and choosing protection over peace when the safety of our child was at stake. It demonstrates how sometimes the most loving action requires the courage to enforce consequences for unacceptable behavior, even when those consequences create family conflict and social disapproval. Most importantly, this story illustrates the possibility of transformation when individuals choose to prioritize the well-being of the next generation over the comfort of maintaining familiar but destructive family patterns. The path forward required difficult decisions, professional intervention, and the support of individuals who understood that protecting children from abuse was more important than preserving family relationships at any cost. The transformation of my understanding about healthy family relationships began not with dramatic confrontation, but through a series of seemingly minor incidents that gradually illuminated the stark contrast between my childhood experiences and the emotional safety that David and I were attempting to create for Emily. These moments of clarity emerged slowly, often during quiet conversations with David or observations of other families who demonstrated genuine affection and respect in their daily interactions. The catalyst for recognizing that change was necessary occurred during Emily's 6th birthday celebration, approximately 1 year before the incident that would ultimately lead to legal intervention. My mother had arrived from Richmond 3 days early, ostensibly to help with party preparations, but actually to ensure that the celebration met her standards for appropriate family gatherings. Her presence immediately altered the atmosphere in our home, creating tension that affected every aspect of our daily routines. The birthday party itself featured 20 children from Emily's first-grade class, along with their parents who represented a diverse group of families from our Charleston neighborhood. These parents demonstrated various approaches to child rearing, but they shared common elements of patience, encouragement, and genuine delight in their children's happiness that contrasted sharply with my mother's critical observations and controlling behavior throughout the afternoon. During the party, I observed my mother's interactions with both Emily and the other children present. When Emily spilled juice on her party dress, my mother's immediate response was sharp criticism about carelessness and lack of attention, followed by a lengthy explanation of why this behavior was unacceptable. The other parents present responded to similar incidents, with gentle assistance and reassurance that accidents were normal parts of childhood experience. The contrast became even more apparent when Emily opened her gifts and expressed enthusiasm for presents that my mother deemed inappropriate or excessive. While other adults celebrated Emily's joy and gratitude, my mother provided commentary about spoiled children and parents who failed to teach proper values through their gift-giving choices. Her disapproval cast a shadow over what should have been moments of pure childhood delight. Most significantly, I noticed how the other children interacted naturally and confidently with their parents, asking questions, expressing preferences, and seeking comfort when needed. These children appeared secure in their relationships and confident that their emotional needs would be met with understanding rather than criticism. Emily's behavior around my mother was markedly different, characterized by careful attention to my mother's mood and obvious efforts to avoid actions that might trigger disapproval. Following the party, several parents commented positively about Emily's kindness, creativity, and confidence, while expressing subtle concerns about the tension they had observed during my mother's interactions with her. One mother, Jennifer Walsh, whose daughter Madison had become close friends with Emily, gently inquired whether everything was all right, and mentioned that Emily seemed anxious whenever my mother spoke to her. This external perspective from other parents provided validation for concerns I had been developing but had not fully acknowledged. These individuals had no investment in maintaining family harmony or avoiding conflict with my mother. Their observations reflected genuine concern for Emily's emotional well-being, based solely on what they witnessed during a few hours of interaction. That evening, after the guests had departed and my mother had retired to the guest room, David and I discussed the day's events and their implications for our family dynamics. David had also observed the concerning interactions and had been particularly troubled by Emily's obvious anxiety around her grandmother. As someone whose professional experience included extensive work with family dysfunction cases, he possessed framework for understanding and articulating patterns that I had normalized due to my upbringing. David's perspective provided crucial insights about the long-term impact of emotional manipulation and intimidation on child development. He explained how children who grow up in environments where love is conditional upon compliance often develop anxiety, perfectionism, and difficulty with authentic self-expression that can persist throughout their adult lives. His professional knowledge validated my intuitive concerns while providing language for describing dynamics I had previously been unable to articulate clearly. Most importantly, David helped me understand that protecting Emily from these harmful patterns was not only appropriate but necessary for her healthy development. The realization that my mother's behavior constituted emotional abuse rather than strict but loving discipline represented a fundamental shift in my understanding of family relationships and parental responsibilities. This conversation marked the beginning of my commitment to establishing and maintaining boundaries that would protect Emily from the same experiences that had shaped my own childhood. The decision was not made lightly, as it required acknowledgement that my mother's love, while genuine, was expressed through controlling and manipulative behaviors that were harmful to children's emotional development. The months following Emily's birthday party were characterized by gradual implementation of boundaries designed to limit my mother's opportunities to criticize or intimidate Emily during family interactions. These boundaries included supervision of all interactions between my mother and Emily, immediate intervention when criticism became harsh or inappropriate, and clear communication about acceptable behavior during visits to our home. Implementing these boundaries created significant tension with my mother, who interpreted any limitation on her authority as personal rejection and evidence of my ingratitude for her sacrifices during my upbringing. She responded to boundary-setting attempts with emotional manipulation, guilt-inducing comparisons to other families, and threats to reduce her involvement in our lives if her parenting expertise was not properly respected and utilized. These responses reinforced my growing understanding that my mother's primary concern was maintaining control rather than supporting Emily's well-being. A grandmother who genuinely prioritized her granddaughter's happiness would have been willing to modify her behavior when presented with information about its negative impact. My mother's defensive and retaliatory responses revealed that her need for authority superseded her concern for Emily's emotional comfort. The challenge of managing these boundary-setting efforts while maintaining some form of relationship with my mother required significant emotional energy and strategic thinking. I found myself preparing for phone conversations and visits as if they were diplomatic negotiations, carefully considering how to present information in ways that might minimize conflict while still protecting Emily from harmful interactions. During this period, I began seeking guidance from professional resources about managing difficult family relationships and protecting children from emotionally manipulative grandparents. The literature on family systems and generational patterns provided valuable insights about the dynamics I was navigating, while offering practical strategies for maintaining boundaries despite resistance and guilt-inducing responses. Most helpful was information about the concept of toxic grandparents and the importance of prioritizing children's emotional safety over adults' feelings when these interests conflicted. This perspective validated my growing conviction that preserving family relationships at any cost was not actually in Emily's best interests, and that healthy families required mutual respect and consideration for all members' well-being. The reading and research also helped me understand that my mother's behavior patterns were unlikely to change significantly without professional intervention and genuine commitment to personal growth. The likelihood of sustainable improvement through informal boundary setting and conversation was minimal, which meant that more substantial measures might eventually become necessary to protect Emily from ongoing emotional harm. This realization was both liberating and terrifying. Liberation came from understanding that I was not responsible for managing my mother's emotions or ensuring her satisfaction with our family decisions. Terror arose from recognizing that protecting Emily might require choices that would permanently alter or end our relationship with my mother, creating family conflict that would extend far beyond our immediate household. David's support during this period of realization and boundary development was essential for maintaining my resolve when my mother's emotional manipulation threatened to undermine my commitment to protecting Emily. His professional experience with family dysfunction cases provided perspective about the importance of early intervention when children were exposed to emotionally harmful behavior patterns. Most significantly, David helped me understand that effective boundary setting often requires escalating consequences when initial attempts are ignored or actively undermined. He explained that individuals who engage in controlling and manipulative behavior typically interpret kindness and patience as weakness, requiring firmer responses to communicate that boundaries are non-negotiable requirements rather than suggestions open to debate. This understanding prepared me for the possibility that protecting Emily might ultimately require legal intervention if my mother's behavior escalated beyond what could be managed through informal boundary setting. David's position as a prosecutor specializing in family violence cases provided unique insights about when behavior crossed the line from inappropriate to illegal, requiring formal consequences to prevent further harm. The concept of potentially pursuing legal action against my own mother was initially unthinkable, representing the ultimate violation of family loyalty and traditional expectations about intergenerational relationships. However, David's professional experience had exposed him to numerous cases where family loyalty had prevented appropriate intervention until children suffered significant psychological or physical harm that could have been prevented through earlier action. These conversations about potential legal intervention remained theoretical during most of Emily's 6th year, serving primarily as framework for understanding the seriousness of our situation rather than immediate action plans. However, they established important groundwork for the decisions we would eventually need to make when my mother's behavior escalated beyond what could be managed through informal boundary setting. The months leading up to my mother's final visit to Charleston were characterized by increasingly strained communication and growing awareness that our current approach to managing family relationships was unsustainable. My mother's responses to boundary setting attempts had become more aggressive and manipulative, while Emily's anxiety around her grandmother had intensified despite our efforts to provide emotional protection and support. Emily began expressing reluctance about visits from Grandma Patricia and asking questions about why some grandparents were mean while others were kind and fun to spend time with. These conversations broke my heart while reinforcing my determination to ensure that Emily's childhood would be characterized by emotional safety and genuine affection, rather than the conditional love and fear-based compliance that had defined my own upbringing. The decision to host my mother for Emily's 7th birthday celebration represented one final attempt to maintain some form of family relationship while protecting Emily from harmful interactions. I hoped that clear communication about expectations, careful supervision of all interactions, and immediate intervention when necessary might enable a successful visit that could serve as a foundation for future improvements in our family dynamics. This hope reflected both my desire to preserve some connection with my mother and my incomplete understanding of how deeply entrenched her behavioral patterns had become. I still believed that love and patience might eventually overcome her need for control, failing to recognize that her resistance to boundary setting reflected fundamental unwillingness to prioritize Emily's well-being over her own emotional needs. The preparation for this final visit included extensive conversations with David about intervention strategies, agreement about consequences for inappropriate behavior, and clear communication with my mother about expectations for respectful treatment of Emily during her stay in our home. These preparations represented our most systematic attempt to create conditions where a positive visit might be possible, while maintaining our commitment to protecting Emily from emotional harm. Looking back, I recognize that this period of boundary setting and careful preparation served an essential purpose, even though it ultimately failed to prevent the violent incident that would change everything. The months of documentation, professional consultation, and strategic planning provided crucial foundation for the legal actions that would follow, while also demonstrating our good faith efforts to address the situation through less drastic measures. Most importantly, this period of growing awareness and boundary development represented my transformation from someone who prioritized family harmony over child protection to someone who understood that genuine love sometimes requires difficult choices and uncomfortable consequences. The vision of creating a truly safe and nurturing environment for Emily had become my primary motivation, superseding traditional expectations about family loyalty and intergenerational deference. This transformation would prove essential for navigating the crisis that was approaching and making the difficult decisions that would ultimately protect Emily from further harm, while holding my mother accountable for behavior that had escalated beyond what could be managed through informal intervention. The foundation was set for the confrontation that would test every aspect of our commitment to protecting our child and breaking generational cycles of dysfunction. The development of a systematic approach to protecting Emily while maintaining some form of relationship with my mother required careful analysis of family dynamics, professional consultation, and strategic planning that acknowledged both the complexity of our situation and the potential consequences of various intervention approaches. This planning phase occurred during the 8 months following Emily's 6th birthday party and represented my transition from reactive management of individual incidents to proactive establishment of comprehensive boundaries and safety measures. The foundation of our strategic approach began with professional consultation from Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a family therapist who specialized in intergenerational trauma and boundary setting within dysfunctional family systems. David had research therapists with expertise in these areas through his professional network, recognizing that our situation required guidance from someone who understood both the psychological dynamics involved and the practical challenges of implementing change within resistant family systems. Dr. Rodriguez's initial assessment of our family situation provided valuable framework for understanding the patterns we were navigating and developing realistic expectations about potential outcomes. She explained that individuals like my mother, who had established identity and authority through controlling behavior patterns, rarely modified their approach without experiencing significant consequences for their actions. The likelihood of voluntary change through conversation and boundary requests was minimal, requiring more substantial interventions to protect children from ongoing emotional harm. The therapeutic process included individual sessions where I explored the impact of my childhood experiences on my current decision-making, joint sessions with David to ensure alignment in our approach, and family sessions that included Emily to assess her current emotional state and develop age-appropriate strategies for helping her understand and cope with the challenging family dynamics she was experiencing. These sessions revealed that Emily had already internalized concerning patterns related to her interactions with my mother. She demonstrated hypervigilance around my mother's mood changes, expressed anxiety about disappointing her grandmother, and had begun modifying her natural personality to avoid potential criticism or conflict. Dr. Rodriguez explained that these early signs of emotional adaptation represented warning indicators that intervention was necessary to prevent more significant psychological impacts as Emily continued developing. The individual therapy sessions helped me understand how my own childhood experiences had created blind spots in recognizing emotional abuse and manipulation. Dr. Rodriguez guided me through examining specific incidents from my upbringing that I had normalized but which actually represented inappropriate treatment that had shaped my tolerance for dysfunctional behavior patterns. This process was both painful and liberating, providing clarity about why boundary setting felt so challenging and validating my concerns about Emily's experiences. Most significantly, the therapeutic work helped me distinguish between guilt-based motivation and values-based motivation in making decisions about family relationships. Guilt-based decisions prioritized avoiding conflict and maintaining others' approval, while values-based decisions focused on creating environments that supported healthy development and authentic relationships. Understanding this distinction provided essential framework for evaluating options and maintaining resolve when implementing difficult but necessary boundaries. The joint sessions with David strengthened our partnership in addressing these challenges while ensuring that we maintained consistent approaches to boundary setting and intervention. David's professional experience provided valuable perspective about legal implications and potential escalation scenarios, while my intimate knowledge of family dynamics helped identify potential triggers and effective communication strategies. These conversations established clear protocols for managing visits, phone calls, and other interactions with my mother. We developed specific intervention strategies for various scenarios, agreed upon consequences for boundary violations, and created documentation systems to track patterns and incidents that might become relevant for future decision-making. This systematic approach provided both structure and confidence for navigating challenging interactions while maintaining our commitment to protecting Emily. The family sessions with Emily served multiple purposes in our strategic planning process. Dr. Rodriguez assessed Emily's current emotional state and coping mechanisms while providing age-appropriate education about healthy relationships and family boundaries. These sessions helped Emily understand that the tension she experienced around her grandmother was not her fault, and that adults were responsible for treating children with kindness and respect, regardless of behavioral expectations. Emily's insights during these sessions provided crucial information about her experiences and perceptions that informed our boundary-setting approach. She described feeling scared when Grandma Patricia spoke loudly or criticized her behavior, expressed confusion about why some adults were nice while others were mean, and asked questions about whether she was required to spend time with people who made her feel uncomfortable. Dr. Rodriguez helped Emily develop language for expressing her feelings and requesting support when needed, while also providing reassurance that her parents would protect her from situations that felt unsafe or overwhelming. These conversations established foundation for Emily to communicate openly about her experiences, rather than attempting to manage difficult emotions independently or through behavioral adaptation. The therapeutic process also included education about child development and the importance of emotional safety for healthy psychological growth. Dr. Rodriguez explained that children who grow up in environments where they must constantly monitor adult emotions and modify their behavior to avoid conflict often develop anxiety, perfectionism, and difficulty with authentic self-expression that persists into adulthood. Understanding these potential long-term impacts reinforced our commitment to protecting Emily from these harmful patterns. Based on the therapeutic assessment and recommendations, we developed a comprehensive family safety plan that addressed multiple aspects of our interactions with my mother. This plan included specific guidelines for visit duration and frequency, supervision requirements for all interactions between my mother and Emily, intervention protocols for inappropriate behavior, and consequences for violations of established boundaries. The visit guidelines established clear parameters about acceptable length and timing for my mother's stays in our home. Previous visits had often extended beyond reasonable timeframes, creating prolonged stress for our household and multiple opportunities for conflict. The new guidelines limited visits to maximum 3-day periods, with advanced scheduling requirements and clear expectations about departure dates that would not be subject to manipulation or extension requests. Supervision requirements ensured that Emily would never be alone with my mother during visits, eliminating opportunities for inappropriate discipline, criticism, or manipulation that might occur without witnesses. This supervision would be provided by either David or myself, with clear understanding that we would intervene immediately if interactions became harmful or inappropriate. The intervention protocols established specific language and consequences for various types of boundary violations. Verbal criticism of Emily would result in immediate redirection and explanation of acceptable communication standards. Attempts to undermine our parenting decisions would result in topic changes and private conversations about respect for household rules. Any form of physical intimidation or aggressive behavior would result in immediate visit termination and extended periods without contact. Documentation procedures required detailed records of all interactions, including phone calls, visits, and written communications. These records would track patterns of behavior, document our boundary-setting efforts, and provide evidence for future decision-making about the safety and appropriateness of continued contact. David's legal experience informed these documentation requirements, ensuring that our records would be comprehensive and credible if formal intervention became necessary. Communication strategies addressed how we would present these new boundaries to my mother, while minimizing opportunities for argument or manipulation. Dr. Rodriguez helped develop scripts for various conversations that maintain clarity about requirements, while avoiding language that could be interpreted as negotiable suggestions rather than firm expectations. The presentation of these boundaries would emphasize our commitment to maintaining family relationships within parameters that ensured everyone's comfort and safety. We would explain that these guidelines reflected our responsibility as parents to create positive experiences for Emily, while providing opportunities for meaningful relationships with extended family members who demonstrated respect for household rules and child-appropriate behavior. Consequences for boundary violations would be implemented consistently, regardless of my mother's emotional responses or attempts to negotiate alternative arrangements. Dr. Rodriguez emphasized that effectiveness of boundary setting depended upon predictable enforcement rather than flexibility, based on guilt, manipulation, or promises of future improvement. This consistency would communicate that our requirements were serious commitments rather than temporary suggestions subject to modification through persuasion. The strategic plan also addressed potential escalation scenarios and our responses to various forms of resistance or retaliation. My mother's history suggested that boundary-setting attempts would likely result in increased manipulation, guilt-inducing communications, and possible threats to reduce her involvement in our lives. We prepared responses to these predictable reactions while maintaining our commitment to protecting Emily, regardless of external pressure or family criticism. Emergency procedures established protocols for situations where my mother's behavior escalated beyond what could be managed through standard intervention approaches. These procedures included immediate visit termination, law enforcement contact if necessary, and documentation requirements for any incidents involving threats, physical aggression, or behavior that created unsafe conditions for Emily. The comprehensive nature of this planning process reflected our understanding that protecting Emily would require a systematic approach rather than improvised responses to individual incidents. The months of preparation, professional consultation, and strategic development provided essential foundation for implementing boundaries effectively while maintaining our resolve when these boundaries were tested. Most importantly, this planning phase represented our transformation from individuals who hoped that patience and accommodation would eventually improve family dynamics to parents who understood that protection of our child required proactive measures and consistent enforcement of appropriate behavior standards. The strategic foundation we established would prove essential for navigating the crisis that was approaching and making decisions that prioritized Emily's safety over family harmony. The completion of our strategic planning coincided with my mother's announcement that she intended to visit Charleston for Emily's 7th birthday celebration. This visit would represent the first comprehensive test of our new boundaries and intervention strategies. The extensive preparation we had completed provided confidence and structure for managing this visit while protecting Emily from harmful interactions. However, the strategic plan also included recognition that our boundary-setting efforts might ultimately prove insufficient to ensure Emily's safety if my mother's behavior continued escalating beyond what could be managed through informal intervention. The possibility of formal legal action remained a final option that we hoped would not become necessary but for which we were prepared if circumstances required such measures. The foundation was established, the boundaries were defined, the intervention strategies were practiced. The documentation systems were implemented. We were as prepared as possible for the visit that would ultimately test every aspect of our commitment to protecting Emily and determine whether our family relationships could continue within acceptable safety parameters or whether more drastic measures would become necessary to ensure our child's well-being. The implementation of our comprehensive family protection strategy required disciplined execution across multiple domains of preparation, from emotional readiness and communication protocols to legal documentation and emergency response procedures. The 3 months preceding my mother's scheduled visit for Emily's 7th birthday represented an intensive preparation period where theoretical planning transformed into practical readiness for managing complex family dynamics under potentially volatile conditions. The emotional preparation component of our strategy focused on developing resilience and clarity that would enable consistent boundary enforcement despite anticipated manipulation and guilt-inducing responses from my mother. Dr. Rodriguez guided this process through individual therapy sessions that addressed my historical patterns of compliance and conflict avoidance while building confidence in my authority as Emily's mother and primary protector. These sessions included role-playing exercises, where we practiced responses to various manipulation tactics my mother might employ when confronted with our new boundaries. Dr. Rodriguez helped me recognize the physical and emotional signs that indicated I was being manipulated, while developing authentic responses that maintained boundaries without escalating conflict unnecessarily. This preparation proved essential for maintaining resolve when faced with the sophisticated emotional manipulation techniques my mother had perfected over decades of family control. The therapeutic work also addressed anticipatory anxiety about potential family consequences resulting from our boundary enforcement. I explored fears about permanent relationship damage, extended family criticism, and social disapproval that might result from prioritizing Emily's safety over traditional expectations about family harmony and maternal deference. Dr. Rodriguez helped me distinguish between realistic concerns that required planning and irrational fears that reflected my conditioning rather than actual threats. Most significantly, the emotional preparation process included extensive work on guilt management and values clarification. Dr. Rodriguez guided me through exercises that reinforced my understanding of appropriate parental priorities, while developing immunity to guilt-based arguments that might undermine my commitment to protecting Emily. This preparation included examining scenarios where family loyalty conflicted with child protection and practicing values-based decision-making under emotional pressure. The communication preparation involved developing specific language and delivery techniques for various boundary-setting conversations we anticipated during my mother's visit. David and I practiced these conversations extensively, with him role-playing my mother's likely responses while I refined my communication approach to maintain clarity and firmness without providing openings for argument or negotiation. These practice sessions addressed multiple communication challenges we expected to encounter. We prepared responses for situations where my mother attempted to reframe our boundaries as overprotectiveness or disrespect for her parental authority. We developed language for redirecting conversations when she tried to engage Emily in discussions about family conflicts or adult decisions. We established protocols for communicating consequences when boundaries were violated, without allowing these communications to become lengthy arguments about fairness or appropriateness. The communication preparation also included developing age-appropriate language for discussing family dynamics with Emily. Dr. Rodriguez helped us create explanations that would provide Emily with understanding about why certain rules existed during Grandma Patricia's visits, without burdening her with adult concerns about family dysfunction. These conversations emphasized that all family members deserved respectful treatment while establishing Emily's right to request support when interactions felt uncomfortable or overwhelming. Documentation preparation represented a crucial component of our strategy that required systematic attention to detail and consistent implementation throughout the visit period. David's legal experience informed the development of documentation protocols that would create comprehensive records of all interactions, while maintaining objectivity and factual accuracy that could withstand scrutiny if formal intervention became necessary. The documentation system included detailed incident reports for any boundary violations or concerning behaviors, photographic evidence when appropriate, witness statements from neutral parties who observed problematic interactions, and comprehensive records of our intervention attempts and their outcomes. This documentation would serve multiple purposes, including tracking patterns over time, demonstrating our good faith efforts to address problems through informal means, and providing evidence for legal action if circumstances required formal intervention. We established specific criteria for documenting incidents that ensured consistency and comprehensiveness in our record-keeping. Each incident report would include date and time information, detailed descriptions of behaviors observed, exact quotes when possible, Emily's reactions and responses, our intervention attempts, and outcomes of those interventions. This systematic approach would create reliable records that accurately reflected the nature and frequency of concerning behaviors. The documentation preparation also included establishing secure storage systems for all records and ensuring that multiple copies of important documents were maintained in different locations. David emphasized the importance of maintaining professional standards for documentation that would preserve credibility and usefulness if these records became relevant for legal proceedings or child protection investigations. Safety planning represented perhaps the most critical aspect of our preparation intensive, requiring detailed consideration of various escalation scenarios and our appropriate responses to each situation. This planning addressed both Emily's immediate physical and emotional safety during the visit and our family's long-term security if my mother's behavior required permanent intervention measures. The safety planning process included establishing clear protocols for different levels of concerning behavior. Mild boundary violations would result in immediate redirection and reminder about appropriate behavior expectations. Moderate violations involving criticism of Emily or attempts to undermine our parenting decisions would result in private conversations with my mother about respect for household rules and potential consequences for continued violations. Severe violations involving any form of physical intimidation, aggressive behavior toward Emily, or attempts to physically discipline our daughter would result in immediate visit termination and implementation of extended no-contact periods. The most serious escalation scenario involving any form of physical violence or threats would result in immediate law enforcement contact and permanent cessation of unsupervised access to Emily. The safety planning also addressed Emily's emotional protection during potentially stressful interactions. We established code words that Emily could use to request immediate adult intervention without creating additional conflict with her grandmother. We practiced scenarios where Emily might feel overwhelmed or frightened, ensuring she understood that requesting help was always appropriate and would never result in criticism or punishment. Emergency response preparation included researching local law enforcement procedures for domestic disturbance calls, identifying family violence resources in our community, and establishing communication protocols with trusted friends and family members who could provide support if crisis intervention became necessary. David's professional connections provided additional resources and guidance about effective approaches to family violence situations involving children. The preparation intensive also included practical considerations, such as home environment modifications that would support our boundary enforcement efforts. We rearranged guest room access to ensure that my mother's accommodations did not provide unsupervised access to Emily's bedroom or play areas. We established clear house rules about acceptable behavior in common areas, and prepared explanations for any questions about these arrangements. Meal planning and household routine adjustments addressed potential sources of conflict while maintaining our family's normal functioning during the visit period. We planned menus that accommodated my mother's preferences, while avoiding foods that might create opportunities for criticism about Emily's eating habits or table manners. We scheduled activities that would provide structure and supervision while limiting opportunities for problematic one-on-one interactions. The intensive preparation period also included strengthening our support network and ensuring that trusted individuals were aware of our situation and available to provide assistance if needed. We informed Emily's school about the family dynamics and requested additional attention to any changes in her behavior or mood during the visit period. We alerted close friends about the timing of my mother's visit and our concerns about potential difficulties. Dr. Rodriguez remained available for emergency consultation during the visit period, providing professional support if crisis intervention became necessary. David coordinated with colleagues who could provide legal guidance or assistance if formal action became required. These support systems ensured that we would not be managing difficult situations without professional guidance and community resources. The preparation intensive included specific attention to maintaining our marriage partnership and parental teamwork under potentially stressful conditions. David and I established communication protocols for private consultation during the visit, developed strategies for supporting each other when managing difficult interactions, and planned regular check-ins to ensure we remained aligned in our approach and emotional state. We practiced tag-team supervision approaches that would ensure one parent remained calm and available to support Emily while the other addressed boundary violations with my mother. We established signals for requesting immediate partner intervention when situations became overwhelming or potentially dangerous. These preparations ensured that our partnership would remain strong and effective regardless of external pressure or manipulation attempts. The final component of our preparation intensive involved developing post-visit protocols for processing experiences and determining appropriate next steps based on outcomes during the visit period. We established criteria for evaluating whether future visits could occur under similar conditions, whether additional restrictions would be necessary, or whether formal intervention might be required to protect Emily from ongoing harm. These post-visit protocols included comprehensive debriefing sessions with Dr. Rodriguez, evaluation of documentation collected during the visit, assessment of Emily's emotional state and any impacts from difficult interactions, and strategic planning for future family relationship management based on observed patterns and outcomes. The 3 months of intensive preparation transformed our family from individuals hoping that careful management might prevent serious problems to parents who were systematically prepared to protect our child regardless of family consequences or social pressures. The comprehensive nature of our preparation reflected our understanding that protecting Emily would require sustained commitment and professional-level planning rather than improvised responses to unexpected situations. Most importantly, the preparation intensive represented our evolution from reactive crisis management to proactive child protection advocacy. We had developed the tools, knowledge, and support systems necessary to maintain our boundaries consistently, while documenting any violations that might require formal intervention. The foundation was established for managing my mother's visit with confidence and clarity about our priorities and responsibilities as parents. The completion of our preparation intensive coincided with my mother's confirmation of her travel plans for Emily's birthday celebration. The comprehensive readiness we had achieved provided confidence that we could manage whatever challenges arose during the visit, while maintaining our commitment to protecting Emily and enforcing appropriate behavior standards within our household. The transformation from theoretical knowledge about family dysfunction to practical expertise in boundary enforcement and child protection occurred through systematic practice and real-world application of the strategies we had developed during months of professional consultation and strategic planning. This skill mastery phase represented the period when our preparation translated into confident competence, enabling us to manage complex family dynamics with clarity and effectiveness rather than anxiety and uncertainty. The development of communication mastery began with smaller family interactions that preceded my mother's planned visit for Emily's 7th birthday. These practice opportunities included phone conversations, holiday coordination discussions, and routine family communications that provided lower-stakes environments for implementing our new boundary-setting approaches and observing their effectiveness in real-world applications. During these preliminary interactions, I discovered that consistent boundary enforcement required not only clear communication, but also emotional regulation techniques that prevented my mother's manipulation attempts from destabilizing my resolve or triggering childhood patterns of compliance and conflict avoidance. The months of therapeutic preparation had provided theoretical understanding of these dynamics, but practical application revealed nuances and challenges that required additional skill development. The first significant test of our communication strategies occurred during a phone conversation, where my mother attempted to negotiate extended visit duration beyond the 3-day maximum we had established as part of our safety planning protocols. Her approach involved familiar manipulation techniques including guilt induction about limited family time, comparisons to other grandparents who received more generous access to their grandchildren, and subtle threats about reduced future involvement if her preferences were not accommodated. The conversation provided an opportunity to practice maintaining boundary clarity while avoiding engagement in circular arguments or defensive explanations about our family decisions. I implemented the communication scripts we had developed with Dr. Rodriguez, acknowledging my mother's preferences while clearly stating that our family schedule required adherence to the established visit duration parameters. My mother's response to this boundary enforcement revealed important information about her willingness to respect our family authority and her likely approach to future limit-setting attempts. Her escalation from gentle persuasion to more aggressive manipulation tactics demonstrated that she viewed our boundaries as negotiable suggestions rather than firm requirements, confirming our assessment that consistent enforcement would be necessary to establish credible authority over family interactions. Most significantly, my ability to maintain clarity and composure during this challenging conversation provided confidence that the emotional preparation work had successfully developed resilience against manipulation techniques that had previously been effective in undermining my resolve. The conversation concluded with our boundaries intact and my self-respect preserved, representing a fundamental shift in family power dynamics that had been decades in development. The documentation skill development occurred through systematic practice of incident recording and evidence collection during routine family interactions that preceded the high-stakes birthday visit. These practice opportunities included recording concerning comments during phone conversations, documenting attempts to undermine our parenting decisions through indirect communication with Emily, and maintaining detailed records of boundary-setting attempts and their outcomes. The documentation practice revealed that effective record-keeping required not only attention to factual accuracy, but also understanding of legal relevance and credibility standards that would ensure our records could withstand scrutiny if formal intervention became necessary. David's legal expertise proved invaluable in refining our documentation approaches to emphasize objective observations rather than subjective interpretations, while maintaining comprehensive coverage of relevant behavioral patterns. Through consistent practice, I developed proficiency in recognizing and documenting subtle manipulation techniques that might not immediately appear concerning to external observers, but represented part of larger patterns of inappropriate behavior toward Emily. These skills included identifying indirect criticism disguised as helpful suggestions, documenting attempts to create loyalty conflicts between Emily and her parents, and recording instances where my mother attempted to establish special relationships with Emily that excluded parental oversight. The documentation process also revealed the importance of witness corroboration and external validation for incidents that occurred in family settings where my mother might later dispute our account of events. We began strategically including neutral parties in family interactions when possible, ensuring that concerning behaviors were observed by individuals who had no investment in family conflict outcomes and could provide objective accounts if needed. The emotional regulation mastery developed through sustained practice of the techniques Dr. Rodriguez had taught for managing stress, anxiety, and guilt during challenging family interactions. These techniques included breathing exercises for maintaining physiological calm during confrontational conversations, cognitive reframing strategies for interpreting manipulation attempts objectively rather than emotionally, and grounding techniques for staying present and focused when family interactions triggered childhood trauma responses. The emotional regulation skills proved essential for maintaining parental authority and modeling appropriate responses for Emily during potentially volatile family situations. Children observe and internalize adult responses to conflict and stress, making it crucial that David and I demonstrate calm confidence rather than anxiety or fear when managing difficult family dynamics. Through sustained practice, I developed the ability to distinguish between appropriate emotional responses to genuinely concerning behavior and excessive emotional reactivity that reflected my own childhood conditioning rather than current family threats. This distinction enabled more effective decision-making about intervention timing and intensity, while preventing unnecessary escalation of family conflicts that could be managed through lower-level boundary enforcement. The practice period also revealed that emotional regulation skills required ongoing maintenance rather than one-time development, particularly when managing relationships with individuals who had established patterns of emotional manipulation over decades. Regular check-ins with Dr. Rodriguez provided essential support for maintaining perspective and preventing gradual erosion of boundaries through subtle manipulation techniques that might not trigger immediate awareness. The safety assessment expertise developed through systematic evaluation of family interaction patterns and potential escalation scenarios based on observed behavior changes and communication trends. This skill development included learning to recognize early warning signs of potential violence or aggressive behavior, understanding escalation patterns that might indicate increasing risk to Emily's safety, and developing confidence in making difficult decisions about family interaction limitations when safety concerns outweighed relationship preservation interests. The safety assessment skills required balancing legitimate concern for Emily's well-being against overprotectiveness that might unnecessarily restrict family relationships or create anxiety where none was warranted. Dr. Rodriguez provided guidance for calibrating threat assessment appropriately, while maintaining awareness that individuals with controlling behavior patterns often escalate when their authority is challenged through boundary enforcement. Through practice and professional consultation, I developed proficiency in distinguishing between uncomfortable family dynamics that required management and genuinely dangerous situations that required immediate intervention or law enforcement involvement. This distinction proved crucial for maintaining proportionate responses to various levels of concerning behavior, while ensuring appropriate escalation when Emily's safety was threatened. The safety assessment expertise also included developing confidence in trusting intuitive responses to family dynamics that felt dangerous or inappropriate, even when specific behaviors might not immediately appear concerning to external observers. Research about family violence patterns indicated that victims often recognized danger through subtle behavioral cues that preceded more obvious aggressive behavior, making it essential to validate and respond to intuitive safety concerns rather than dismissing them as overreaction. The partnership coordination mastery developed through sustained practice of teamwork approaches with David that enabled effective collaboration during challenging family interactions, while maintaining consistent messaging and mutual support under potentially stressful conditions. These skills included nonverbal communication techniques for requesting immediate partner support, strategies for maintaining unified parental authority when facing external challenges to family decisions, and approaches for processing difficult interactions together without allowing family stress to damage our marriage relationship. The partnership coordination required developing complementary strengths that maximized our collective effectiveness in managing complex family situations. David's legal expertise and natural assertiveness provided essential support for boundary enforcement and potential escalation management, while my intimate knowledge of family dynamics and emotional intuition contributed valuable insights about timing and approach strategies. Through practice, we developed seamless coordination approaches that enabled one partner to provide primary intervention, while the other focused on Emily's emotional support and safety monitoring. These approaches ensured that Emily received consistent attention and reassurance during potentially stressful family interactions, while maintaining adult authority over situation management. The partnership coordination skills also included developing strategies for maintaining relationship strength and emotional connection, despite external pressure and manipulation attempts designed to create division between us. My mother's historical approach to family control included attempts to create loyalty conflicts and undermine spousal relationships, making it essential that David and I maintained unified commitment to our family priorities and boundary enforcement approaches. The child advocacy expertise developed through sustained focus on Emily's emotional needs and developmental requirements, rather than adult comfort or family tradition maintenance when these interests conflicted. This skill development included learning to prioritize Emily's authentic emotional responses over her behavioral compliance, recognizing signs of stress or anxiety that indicated inappropriate pressure from family interactions, and developing age-appropriate communication approaches that validated her feelings while providing necessary protection. The child advocacy skills required developing sensitivity to Emily's nonverbal communication and behavioral changes that might indicate distress even when she was unable or reluctant to express concerns directly. Children often attempt to manage adult emotions through behavioral adaptation rather than communicating their own needs, making it essential to observe patterns and respond to underlying emotional states rather than surface-level compliance. Through practice and professional guidance, I developed confidence in trusting Emily's emotional responses to family interactions as valid indicators of appropriateness, regardless of adult perspectives about respect for authority or family loyalty expectations. This child-centered approach represented a fundamental departure from my own upbringing, where children's emotional needs were subordinated to adult comfort and family image management. The child advocacy expertise also included developing skills for explaining complex family dynamics to Emily in age-appropriate language that provided understanding without burdening her with adult responsibilities for managing family relationships or emotional outcomes. These communication approaches emphasized her right to emotional safety while maintaining appropriate boundaries around adult decision-making processes. The comprehensive skill mastery achieved through months of systematic practice and professional development provided the foundation necessary for managing my mother's upcoming visit with confidence and competence, rather than anxiety and uncertainty. The transformation from individuals hoping to avoid family conflict to parents equipped with professional-level child protection skills represented fundamental change in our family's capacity for managing dysfunction and maintaining appropriate boundaries. Most importantly, the skill mastery phase demonstrated that effective boundary enforcement and child protection required sustained commitment to personal growth and professional development, rather than relying solely on intuition or family tradition guidance. The expertise we had developed would prove essential for navigating the crisis that awaited us and making decisions that prioritized Emily's safety over family harmony when these interests proved incompatible. The strategic positioning phase of our family protection initiative required careful orchestration of relationships, documentation, and professional networks that would provide comprehensive support for our boundary enforcement efforts, while establishing credible foundation for potential legal intervention if circumstances required formal measures to protect Emily from ongoing harm. The development of professional witness networks represented a crucial component of our strategic positioning that would provide external validation for our concerns about family dynamics, while creating accountability structures that discouraged inappropriate behavior through increased visibility and oversight. This network development required identifying trustworthy individuals who possessed relevant expertise, demonstrated commitment to child welfare, and maintained sufficient independence from family politics to provide objective assessment and documentation when needed. Dr. Elena Rodriguez continued serving as our primary professional resource for therapeutic guidance and expert assessment of family dynamics, but her role expanded during this phase to include potential expert witness preparation and documentation of Emily's emotional state and developmental needs. Her professional credentials and specialized expertise in family trauma provided essential credibility for any formal proceedings that might become necessary to protect Emily from continued exposure to harmful interactions. The positioning with Dr. Rodriguez included comprehensive documentation of Emily's therapy sessions, detailed assessment reports about the impact of family dynamics on her emotional development, and professional recommendations about appropriate safety measures and interaction parameters. These documents established clear professional foundation for our boundary-setting efforts while providing expert validation for concerns that might otherwise be dismissed as overprotective parenting or family conflict exaggeration. We also established relationships with Emily's pediatrician, Dr. Sarah Chen, who possessed extensive experience with child abuse cases and family dysfunction assessment. Dr. Chen's medical training and legal experience with child protection investigations provided valuable perspective about recognizing and documenting signs of emotional abuse, while establishing additional professional support for our family safety planning efforts. The positioning with Dr. Chen included regular wellness visits that documented Emily's overall health and development, while providing opportunities for professional assessment of any physical or emotional impacts from challenging family interactions. These medical records would serve dual purposes of ensuring Emily's continued health monitoring and creating comprehensive documentation of her overall well-being that could support future legal actions if necessary. The school-based professional network expanded to include Emily's teacher, Mrs. Amanda Foster, and the school counselor, Ms. Rebecca Stone, both of whom received appropriate information about family dynamics that might affect Emily's academic performance or emotional state during periods of family stress. These professionals agreed to provide additional monitoring and support during times when family interactions might create emotional challenges for Emily. The school positioning included establishment of communication protocols that would alert us immediately to any changes in Emily's behavior, academic performance, or emotional state that might indicate distress related to family interactions. These protocols also included documentation procedures that would create comprehensive records of any concerning changes that corresponded with periods of family conflict or challenging interactions with extended family members. The community network positioning involved careful development of relationships with neighbors, family, friends, and community members who possessed relevant professional expertise or personal experience with family dysfunction and child protection issues. These relationships provided both emotional support for our family and potential witness resources if documentation of concerning behaviors became necessary for legal proceedings. The community positioning included establishing relationships with 3 neighbor families who possessed relevant professional backgrounds in law enforcement, social work, and child psychology. These neighbors had observed our family interactions during community events and social gatherings, providing them with baseline understanding of our family dynamics and Emily's typical behavior patterns that could serve as comparison points for assessing any concerning changes. The strategic communication positioning involved careful management of information sharing about our family situation that balanced transparency with privacy protection, while ensuring that appropriate individuals possessed sufficient knowledge to provide meaningful support and intervention if circumstances required immediate assistance. This communication strategy required distinguishing between individuals who needed comprehensive information about family dynamics and those who required only general awareness about potential concerns. The family communication positioning addressed how we would present information about our boundary-setting efforts to extended family members who might be affected by changes in family interaction patterns or visit scheduling. This positioning emphasized our commitment to maintaining positive relationships within appropriate safety parameters while clearly communicating that Emily's well-being represented our primary priority in all family planning decisions. The extended family positioning included strategic conversations with David's parents, who had observed concerning interactions during previous family gatherings and expressed private concerns about my mother's behavior toward Emily. Margaret and William Matthews possessed valuable perspective about healthy family dynamics and child development that provided additional validation for our concerns while offering potential support and witness testimony if formal intervention became necessary. The positioning with David's family included comprehensive briefings about our boundary-setting efforts and safety planning, while requesting their assistance with monitoring family dynamics during joint gatherings or events where my mother might be present. Their professional backgrounds and parenting experience provided valuable perspective about appropriate intervention strategies, while ensuring that Emily would have additional advocates present during potentially challenging family interactions. The legal network positioning represented perhaps the most critical aspect of our strategic development, given David's professional role as Attorney General and the potential implications of formal legal action against my mother. This positioning required careful coordination between David's professional responsibilities and our family protection needs, while ensuring that appropriate ethical boundaries were maintained throughout any investigation or legal proceedings. The legal positioning included consultation with family law specialists who possessed expertise in child protection cases and domestic violence intervention, while maintaining independence from David's professional office to avoid potential conflicts of interest. These consultations provided essential guidance about legal standards for child protection intervention, while ensuring that our family situation would be handled according to appropriate legal procedures, regardless of David's professional position. The documentation positioning expanded beyond our personal record-keeping efforts to include professional documentation from multiple sources that would provide comprehensive evidence of family dynamics and any concerning behaviors that might require formal intervention. This multi-source approach ensured that our concerns would be supported by credible professional assessment, rather than relying solely on family member testimony that might be viewed as biased or self-interested. The professional documentation positioning included coordination between therapy records, medical assessments, school observations, and legal consultation notes that would create a comprehensive portrait of Emily's well-being and any impacts from challenging family dynamics. This comprehensive approach provided multiple perspectives and professional validation for our concerns, while establishing clear timeline and pattern documentation that would support decision-making about appropriate intervention measures. The crisis intervention positioning involved establishing clear protocols and professional relationships that would enable immediate response if family interactions escalated beyond what could be managed through boundary enforcement and supervision. These protocols included law enforcement contacts who possessed expertise in family violence intervention and child protection procedures. The law enforcement positioning included consultation with Detective Maria Santos, who specialized in domestic violence and child protection cases within the Charleston Police Department. Detective Santos provided valuable guidance about documentation requirements for family violence cases, while establishing communication protocols that would ensure appropriate response if emergency intervention became necessary during family visits or interactions. The emergency positioning also included coordination with Child Protective Services professionals, who possessed expertise in family assessment and safety planning. These relationships provided additional resources for crisis intervention, while ensuring that appropriate professional oversight would be available if circumstances required temporary safety measures or emergency protection for Emily. The strategic timing positioning addressed coordination of our boundary-setting efforts with my mother's planned visit schedule to maximize effectiveness, while minimizing opportunities for manipulation or evasion of established safety measures. This timing strategy included careful planning of visit activities and supervision schedules that would provide comprehensive oversight while creating positive opportunities for appropriate family interaction. The visit timing positioning included coordination with professional schedules to ensure that Dr. Rodriguez would be available for emergency consultation during the visit period, while Detective Santos remained on call for crisis intervention if circumstances required immediate law enforcement response. This professional availability provided essential safety net for managing unexpected escalation, while ensuring that appropriate expertise would be immediately accessible if needed. The documentation timing positioned our record-keeping efforts to capture comprehensive information about family interaction patterns before, during, and after the planned visit period. This timing approach would provide baseline documentation of our preparation efforts while creating real-time records of any concerning behaviors and post-visit assessment of outcomes and impacts on Emily's emotional state. The strategic positioning phase also included careful preparation of our home environment and household routines that would support our boundary enforcement efforts while providing optimal conditions for positive family interactions within appropriate safety parameters. This environmental positioning included modifications to physical spaces, activity planning, and schedule coordination that would minimize opportunities for inappropriate behavior while maximizing supervision and intervention capabilities. The home positioning included installation of security cameras in common areas that would provide objective documentation of family interactions while ensuring that any concerning behaviors would be recorded for future reference if formal intervention became necessary. These security measures provided additional accountability and oversight, while creating permanent records that could support legal action if circumstances required formal child protection measures. The comprehensive strategic positioning represented our evolution from family members hoping to manage dysfunction through accommodation to parents who had developed professional-level child protection capabilities and community support networks. This positioning provided essential foundation for managing my mother's upcoming visit with confidence and competence, while ensuring that appropriate resources and documentation would be available if circumstances required escalated intervention measures. The strategic positioning phase demonstrated that effective child protection required systematic community engagement and professional network development, rather than relying solely on individual family resources. The relationships and documentation systems we had established would prove essential for navigating the crisis that awaited us, while ensuring that Emily's safety remained protected regardless of family consequences or social pressures. The culmination of months of strategic preparation and professional network development created an unprecedented opportunity to establish definitive boundaries with my mother through a carefully controlled environment that would either demonstrate her willingness to respect our family authority or provide irrefutable evidence that formal intervention was necessary to protect Emily from continued emotional harm and potential escalation to physical violence. Emily's 7th birthday celebration represented the optimal testing ground for our comprehensive boundary enforcement strategy, because it combined high emotional stakes for all family members with multiple opportunities for observation, documentation, and intervention, if concerning behaviors emerged during the visit period. The birthday celebration provided natural context for family gathering, while establishing clear expectations about appropriate behavior and respectful treatment of our daughter during what should have been a joyful milestone in her development. The strategic timing of this opportunity aligned perfectly with our preparation timeline and professional support availability, while occurring during a period when Emily was emotionally stable and confident enough to communicate openly about any concerning interactions that might occur during the visit. The combination of optimal timing, comprehensive preparation, and robust support systems created conditions where we could manage whatever challenges arose while maintaining our commitment to protecting Emily and documenting any violations of established boundaries. The evaluation of this opportunity required careful assessment of potential outcomes and their implications for our family's long-term safety and relationship dynamics. The best-case scenario involved my mother demonstrating genuine respect for our boundaries and treating Emily with appropriate kindness and consideration throughout the visit period, potentially establishing foundation for continued relationship within acceptable safety parameters. The moderate outcome scenario involved manageable boundary violations that could be addressed through immediate intervention and clear communication about consequences for continued inappropriate behavior. This scenario would require documented warnings and escalated supervision, but might preserve some possibility for future interactions within more restrictive parameters, designed to prevent harmful behavior. The worst-case scenario involved severe boundary violations or aggressive behavior that would require immediate visit termination and formal legal intervention to protect Emily from continued exposure to harmful interactions. While this outcome would be personally devastating and socially challenging, it would also provide definitive resolution to years of concern about family dynamics and establish permanent protection for Emily's emotional and physical safety. The opportunity evaluation also considered the broader implications for our family's relationship with extended family members and social community, who might be affected by the outcomes of this visit and our responses to any concerning behaviors that emerged. The comprehensive documentation and professional support systems we had established would provide essential validation for our decisions, regardless of external criticism or family pressure, to prioritize relationship preservation over child protection. The risk assessment for this opportunity acknowledged that hosting my mother in our home during Emily's birthday celebration created potential for significant emotional and psychological impact on our daughter if interactions became confrontational or aggressive. However, the controlled environment of our household provided optimal conditions for supervision, intervention, and documentation, while ensuring that Emily's safety remained protected through immediate access to professional resources and emergency response capabilities. The mitigation strategies for identified risks included comprehensive supervision protocols that would prevent unsupervised interactions between my mother and Emily while maintaining natural family celebration atmosphere that would not create additional stress or anxiety for our daughter. The celebration planning incorporated multiple safety measures disguised as normal party activities and household routines. The opportunity structure included strategic scheduling that would maximize positive interaction possibilities, while minimizing opportunities for inappropriate behavior or boundary violations. The 3-day visit period would begin with Emily's actual birthday celebration involving extended family and friends, continue with quieter family activities that provided observation opportunities, and conclude with structured departure procedures that would prevent manipulation or extension attempts. The birthday celebration itself would involve approximately 15 guests, including children from Emily's school and their parents, providing natural supervision and witness presence, while creating festive atmosphere focused on Emily's happiness and milestone achievement. The presence of multiple families would establish social accountability for appropriate behavior, while providing opportunities for neutral observers to assess family dynamics and any concerning interactions. The structured activities planned for the remainder of the visit included supervised outings to child-friendly locations that would provide positive experiences while maintaining oversight of all interactions between my mother and Emily. These activities would occur in public settings with natural supervision opportunities while creating opportunities for documentation and witness observation if concerning behaviors emerged. The opportunity evaluation included analysis of my mother's recent communication patterns and behavior indicators that might suggest her likely approach to boundary enforcement during the visit period. Her responses to previous limit-setting attempts provided valuable insight into her willingness to respect our family authority and suggested potential areas where conflicts might emerge during the celebration period. Recent phone conversations had revealed increased irritation with our scheduling limitations and supervision requirements, while demonstrating continued attempts to negotiate exceptions or modifications to established boundaries. These patterns suggested that she viewed our requirements as temporary inconveniences rather than permanent changes in family dynamics, indicating potential resistance or testing behaviors during the visit period. The communication analysis also revealed subtle attempts to create loyalty conflicts with Emily through comments about missing her grandmother and questions about whether she was happy with parental decisions about family activities and visit scheduling. These manipulation attempts indicated continued willingness to involve Emily in adult conflicts, despite clear communication about the inappropriateness of such behavior. The behavioral pattern analysis suggested that my mother would likely attempt to establish special relationships with Emily that bypassed parental oversight, while positioning herself as more understanding or permissive than her parents. This predictable approach provided opportunity for clear documentation of boundary violations, while ensuring that intervention protocols were prepared for likely scenarios. The opportunity timing considered Emily's developmental readiness for managing potentially challenging family interactions, while maintaining her emotional stability and confidence throughout the visit period. At 7 years old, Emily possessed sufficient communication skills to express discomfort or request assistance if interactions became overwhelming, while maintaining enough innocence to avoid being burdened with adult responsibilities for managing family conflict. Emily's recent therapeutic work with Dr. Rodriguez had strengthened her ability to identify and communicate about uncomfortable feelings, while providing her with language for requesting adult intervention when needed. These communication skills would prove essential for ensuring her safety while providing additional documentation about the impact of family interactions on her emotional state. The therapeutic preparation had also reinforced Emily's understanding that she deserved respectful treatment from all adults, and that requesting help was always appropriate when interactions felt scary or uncomfortable. This foundation would enable her to advocate for herself while ensuring that we received immediate feedback about any concerning interactions that occurred during the visit period. The opportunity assessment included evaluation of David's professional schedule and availability during the planned visit period to ensure optimal partnership coordination and immediate access to legal expertise if circumstances required formal intervention. David's role as Attorney General provided unique resources and obligations that needed careful management throughout the visit period. The professional coordination included arrangements for reduced external commitments during the visit period that would enable David to provide comprehensive support for family supervision and boundary enforcement, while maintaining appropriate separation between his professional responsibilities and personal family situation. This balance would prove essential for managing potential conflicts of interest if legal intervention became necessary. The legal preparation included consultation with independent family law specialists who would provide objective assessment and intervention services if circumstances required formal child protection measures. This preparation ensured that appropriate legal resources would be available while maintaining ethical boundaries around David's professional role and responsibilities. The opportunity recognition phase represented our transformation from parents hoping to manage difficult family dynamics to child protection advocates who possessed comprehensive preparation and professional support for enforcing appropriate boundaries regardless of external pressure or family consequences. The controlled environment and strategic timing provided optimal conditions for determining whether continued family relationship was possible within acceptable safety parameters. The comprehensive evaluation of this opportunity revealed that Emily's birthday celebration represented the decisive moment for establishing permanent family interaction patterns that would either demonstrate successful boundary enforcement or require formal intervention to protect our daughter from continued exposure to harmful behavior. The stakes were enormous, but our preparation and support systems provided confidence that we could manage whatever challenges emerged while prioritizing Emily's safety and emotional well-being above all other considerations. The opportunity recognition marked the end of our preparation phase and the beginning of active implementation of our family protection strategy under real-world conditions that would test every aspect of our planning and commitment to protecting Emily from generational patterns of dysfunction and control. The implementation of our comprehensive family protection strategy during the critical birthday celebration period required meticulous execution of every element we had developed through months of professional consultation and strategic planning. The application of our preparation would determine whether we could establish sustainable boundaries that enabled continued family relationships, or whether formal intervention would become necessary to protect Emily from ongoing exposure to harmful interactions. The pre-arrival preparation phase commenced 48 hours before my mother's scheduled arrival in Charleston, and involved systematic implementation of environmental modifications, documentation systems, and communication protocols that would support our boundary enforcement efforts throughout the visit period. Every aspect of our household preparation reflected the understanding that this visit would serve as the definitive assessment of whether future family interactions could occur within acceptable safety parameters. The environmental preparation included strategic positioning of security cameras in common areas that would provide comprehensive documentation of family interactions while maintaining appropriate privacy boundaries for all household members. The camera placement ensured complete coverage of areas where family activities would occur while avoiding intrusion into private spaces that would create unnecessary tension or discomfort during the visit period. The documentation preparation involved establishing systematic recording protocols that would capture relevant interactions without creating obvious surveillance atmosphere that might alter natural behavior patterns or increase tension among family members. The recording systems included both video documentation and written incident reports that would provide comprehensive evidence of family dynamics and any concerning behaviors that emerged during the celebration period. The communication preparation included final coordination with our professional support network to ensure immediate availability of therapeutic consultation, medical assessment, and emergency intervention services if circumstances required rapid response to concerning behaviors or safety threats. Dr. Rodriguez confirmed availability for emergency consultation throughout the visit period, while Detective Santos remained on standby for crisis intervention if formal law enforcement response became necessary. The household routine modifications included strategic scheduling that would maximize supervision opportunities while maintaining natural family celebration atmosphere that focused on Emily's happiness and birthday milestone, rather than conflict management or behavior monitoring. The activity planning incorporated multiple safety measures disguised as normal celebration elements that would provide comprehensive oversight without creating additional stress for Emily. The arrival management protocols established clear procedures for welcoming my mother while immediately implementing supervision requirements and boundary expectations that had been communicated during pre-visit planning conversations. The arrival procedures would set the tone for the entire visit period while providing early assessment of her willingness to respect established boundaries and treat family members with appropriate consideration. The greeting procedures included warm welcome communications that emphasized our happiness about celebrating Emily's birthday together, while clearly reinforcing expectations about respectful behavior and adherence to household rules throughout the visit period. The initial interactions would provide valuable insight into my mother's attitude and likely cooperation with established boundaries. The luggage and accommodation procedures included strategic room assignment that provided comfortable guest accommodations while ensuring appropriate separation from Emily's private spaces and limiting opportunities for unsupervised interactions that might create boundary violation situations. The accommodation arrangements balanced hospitality with safety considerations that reflected our primary commitment to protecting Emily. The orientation procedures included casual but comprehensive review of household routines, celebration schedules, and activity plans that would provide my mother with clear understanding of expectations, while offering opportunities for appropriate participation in family activities within established supervision parameters. The orientation would also provide early assessment of her emotional state and receptivity to boundary maintenance. The birthday celebration execution represented the most critical component of our strategy implementation, because it involved managing complex family dynamics during emotionally significant milestone event, while maintaining comprehensive supervision and documentation protocols. The celebration planning incorporated multiple safety measures within natural party atmosphere that would provide positive experience for Emily, while enabling effective monitoring of all family interactions. The guest management for the birthday party included strategic invitation and seating arrangements that would provide natural supervision through presence of neutral family friends and neighbors, who possessed awareness of our family situation and could serve as witnesses if concerning behaviors emerged during the celebration. The guest list included individuals who had observed previous family interactions and could provide comparative assessment of any changes in behavior patterns. The activity coordination for the party included structured games and entertainment that would provide positive interaction opportunities while maintaining comprehensive oversight of all communications between my mother and Emily. The activities were designed to create natural supervision through group participation while preventing opportunities for isolated conversations that might involve inappropriate criticism or manipulation attempts. The gift presentation procedures included strategic timing and supervision that would provide opportunities for appropriate grandmother-granddaughter interaction, while preventing criticism of other gifts or attempts to create special relationships that bypassed parental oversight. The gift presentation would also provide assessment of my mother's ability to focus on Emily's happiness, rather than asserting control over celebration elements. The meal coordination included careful menu planning that accommodated my mother's preferences, while avoiding foods that might create opportunities for criticism about Emily's eating habits or table manners. The dining arrangements provided natural conversation opportunities while maintaining supervision that would prevent inappropriate comments or behavior that might diminish Emily's enjoyment of her special day. The documentation during the birthday celebration required discreet but comprehensive recording of interactions that would provide objective evidence of family dynamics, while avoiding obvious monitoring that might alter natural behavior patterns or create additional tension during the celebration. The documentation protocols included both technological recording and written observation notes that would create permanent records of relevant interactions. The post-celebration analysis included immediate assessment of interaction patterns and any concerning behaviors that emerged during the party activities, while Emily remained engaged with friends and other family members. This analysis would provide essential information about my mother's current emotional state and likelihood of cooperation with continued boundary enforcement throughout the remaining visit period. The subsequent visit management involved implementing supervision protocols for the remaining 2 days of the visit period, while providing opportunities for positive family activities that would enable assessment of my mother's sustained cooperation with established boundaries. The activity planning balanced structure with flexibility while maintaining comprehensive oversight of all interactions between my mother and Emily. The supervision rotation strategies included coordinated partnership between David and myself that would ensure continuous oversight while preventing fatigue or attention lapses that might create opportunities for boundary violations or inappropriate interactions. The rotation approach would also provide multiple perspectives for assessment and documentation, while maintaining consistent intervention capability throughout the visit period. The intervention protocols for the extended visit period included specific procedures for addressing various levels of boundary violations that might occur during family activities or casual interactions. The intervention approaches ranged from gentle redirection for minor violations to immediate activity termination for serious boundary violations that threatened Emily's emotional or physical safety. The communication management during the extended visit included strategic conversation guidance that would encourage positive family interaction while preventing discussions that might involve criticism of our parenting decisions or attempts to undermine family authority. The conversation management would also provide opportunities for assessment of my mother's respect for our family autonomy and decision-making processes. The meal planning for the extended visit incorporated continuation of strategic menu selection that would provide comfortable dining experiences while avoiding potential sources of conflict about food choices or table behavior. The dining arrangements would maintain supervision requirements while creating opportunities for pleasant family conversation within appropriate boundaries. The activity planning for the extended visit included structured outings and home-based activities that would provide positive interaction opportunities while maintaining comprehensive supervision and documentation capabilities. The activities were selected to accommodate multiple family members while preventing opportunities for isolated interactions that might create boundary violation situations. The departure management protocols established clear procedures for concluding the visit period, while preventing manipulation attempts or extension requests that might undermine established boundaries. The departure procedures would include assessment of overall visit outcomes and determination of appropriate future interaction parameters based on observed behavior patterns and compliance with established boundaries. The post-visit evaluation procedures included comprehensive assessment of all documented interactions and their implications for future family relationship management, while ensuring immediate support for Emily if any concerning interactions had created emotional distress or anxiety. The evaluation would also include consultation with professional support network members for objective assessment of outcomes and recommendations for future safety planning. The implementation excellence achieved through systematic execution of our comprehensive protection strategy demonstrated our transformation from reactive family crisis management to proactive child protection advocacy that prioritized Emily's safety and emotional well-being above all other considerations. The meticulous preparation and professional-level execution would provide definitive assessment of whether continued family relationships were possible within acceptable safety parameters. The comprehensive application of our protection strategy represented the culmination of months of professional development and strategic planning that had prepared us to manage whatever challenges emerged during this critical visit period while maintaining unwavering commitment to protecting Emily from harmful interactions and establishing permanent boundaries that would prevent future exposure to inappropriate behavior or emotional manipulation. The initial 24 hours of my mother's visit to Charleston presented a deceptive period of apparent cooperation and appropriate behavior that created both hope for successful boundary enforcement and underlying tension about whether this compliance represented genuine change or strategic adaptation, designed to avoid consequences, while planning more sophisticated boundary violations during subsequent interactions. The arrival process had proceeded according to our established protocols, with my mother demonstrating surface-level respect for household rules and expressing appropriate enthusiasm about celebrating Emily's birthday milestone. Her initial interactions with Emily appeared warm and grandmother-appropriate, involving standard questions about school activities and birthday excitement, without the critical undertones or inappropriate pressure that had characterized previous visits. The first evening's family dinner provided valuable assessment opportunity regarding my mother's willingness to engage in respectful conversation and demonstrate genuine interest in Emily's perspectives and preferences without attempting to assert authority over household decisions or undermine parental guidelines. The dinner conversation remained pleasant and focused on neutral topics that allowed Emily to participate comfortably while providing my mother with appropriate opportunities for positive grandmother interaction. However, the apparent cooperation during these initial interactions created psychological challenges that tested our emotional preparedness and strategic resolve. The pleasant family atmosphere naturally encouraged hope that previous concerns had been exaggerated, or that my mother had genuinely recognized the importance of modifying her behavior patterns to maintain positive relationships with our family members. The temptation to relax supervision requirements or interpret surface compliance as evidence of fundamental behavioral change represented a significant psychological trap that could compromise Emily's safety if my mother's apparent cooperation masked more sophisticated manipulation strategies. Dr. Rodriguez had specifically warned about this dynamic during our therapeutic preparation, explaining that individuals with established control patterns often demonstrate temporary compliance to avoid consequences while planning more effective approaches to reassert authority. The professional guidance about maintaining vigilance despite apparent cooperation proved essential for resisting the natural desire to believe that family relationships could improve without sustained boundary enforcement and comprehensive supervision. The therapeutic preparation had emphasized that genuine behavioral change required consistent demonstration over extended periods rather than temporary modification during high-visibility interactions. The documentation requirements during this initial period included detailed recording of all interactions and conversations that would provide baseline assessment of my mother's current approach, while creating comparative framework for evaluating any behavioral changes that might emerge during subsequent visit phases. The documentation protocols required objective observation and factual recording regardless of subjective impressions about cooperation or improvement. The birthday morning activities provided additional assessment opportunities regarding my mother's ability to focus on Emily's happiness and excitement, without attempting to control celebration elements or assert authority over family traditions and activity planning. The morning preparations included gift opening, special breakfast, and final party preparation activities that would reveal my mother's capacity for appropriate celebration participation. The gift opening process represented a particularly significant assessment opportunity because it involved Emily receiving presents from multiple family members and friends while providing my mother with opportunities to demonstrate either supportive enthusiasm or competitive criticism regarding other gift choices. The morning gift exchange would also reveal whether my mother could maintain focus on Emily's joy rather than positioning herself as the primary gift giver or most important family member. Emily's obvious excitement and happiness during the gift opening created natural family celebration atmosphere that encouraged all participants to focus on her enjoyment rather than adult concerns about family dynamics or relationship management. The positive energy provided optimal conditions for appropriate family interaction while maintaining assessment opportunities regarding my mother's capacity for genuine celebration participation. The special birthday breakfast preparation involved Emily's favorite foods and family traditions that provided additional opportunities for my mother to demonstrate respect for household customs and parental authority while contributing positively to celebration activities. The breakfast preparation would also reveal whether my mother could participate in family activities without attempting to assert control over menu choices or cooking procedures. The party preparation activities included decorating common areas and organizing entertainment elements that would provide structured family collaboration opportunities while maintaining supervision requirements and documentation protocols. The preparation activities offered assessment of my mother's willingness to follow household leadership while contributing appropriately to celebration success. The anticipation management during these morning activities required careful balance between maintaining comprehensive supervision and allowing natural family celebration dynamics to develop without obvious monitoring that might create tension or artificiality in family interactions. The supervision approach needed to provide complete oversight while enabling authentic assessment of my mother's current behavioral patterns and cooperation levels. The psychological pressure of maintaining vigilance while hoping for positive outcomes created ongoing emotional challenges that tested our preparation and professional support systems. The natural desire to believe that family relationships could improve through boundary enforcement conflicted with realistic assessment requirements and safety planning priorities that demanded continued caution regardless of apparent cooperation. The communication with Dr. Rodriguez during this initial period provided essential perspective about normal family dynamics during boundary testing phases, while reinforcing the importance of maintaining established protocols regardless of surface-level compliance or apparent improvement. The professional consultation helped distinguish between genuine cooperation and strategic adaptation designed to avoid consequences, while planning more effective boundary violations. The partnership coordination with David during these assessment activities required continuous communication about observed behaviors and shared evaluation of my mother's compliance levels, while maintaining unified approach to supervision and intervention readiness. The partnership communication needed to remain discreet, while ensuring complete information sharing about relevant observations and concerns. The community witness presence during birthday morning activities included neighbors and family friends who possessed awareness of our family situation and could provide objective assessment of interaction patterns while contributing to natural celebration atmosphere. The witness presence served dual purposes of providing supervision support and creating accountability structures that encouraged appropriate behavior through increased visibility. The extended family coordination included communication with David's parents about their arrival timing for the birthday celebration, while ensuring they possessed current information about supervision requirements and intervention protocols. Margaret and William Matthews would provide additional oversight and witness presence, while contributing to positive family celebration dynamics that focused on Emily's happiness. The preparation anxiety management required ongoing attention to maintaining emotional stability and clear thinking, despite the high stakes and uncertainty associated with this critical assessment period. The emotional regulation techniques developed through therapeutic preparation proved essential for managing stress while maintaining focus on Emily's safety and well-being, rather than allowing anxiety to compromise decision-making effectiveness. The documentation review during late morning hours provided opportunity for preliminary assessment of recorded interactions and observed behavior patterns, while identifying any concerning elements that required increased attention or modified supervision approaches during afternoon party activities. The documentation review would also ensure comprehensive recording protocols were functioning effectively and capturing relevant information for future evaluation. The professional network communication included brief consultation with Detective Santos regarding current family dynamics and potential escalation scenarios while ensuring law enforcement resources remained available for emergency response if circumstances required immediate intervention. The professional coordination provided essential safety net while maintaining appropriate separation between family activities and formal intervention resources. The anticipation of afternoon party activities created both excitement about celebrating Emily's milestone and underlying tension about managing complex family dynamics during an emotionally significant event that would include multiple families and provide numerous opportunities for assessment of my mother's capacity for appropriate behavior in social settings with external witnesses and accountability structures. The strategic timing considerations for party activities included coordination of guest arrival schedules that would provide optimal supervision and witness presence, while maintaining natural celebration flow that focused on Emily's enjoyment rather than family conflict management. The timing coordination would also ensure availability of professional resources and emergency response capabilities throughout celebration period. The final preparation phase included review of intervention protocols and communication systems that would enable immediate response to any concerning behaviors, while maintaining celebration atmosphere that protected Emily from awareness of family tensions or conflict management activities. The preparation review ensured readiness for managing whatever challenges might emerge during afternoon party activities. The morning assessment period revealed surface-level cooperation that provided cautious optimism about potential for successful boundary enforcement, while maintaining essential vigilance and preparation for possible escalation during subsequent interactions. The apparent compliance created psychological challenges regarding supervision maintenance, while providing baseline for evaluating any behavioral changes during more complex social interactions. The comprehensive morning evaluation demonstrated that our preparation and professional support systems provided effective framework for managing uncertainty while maintaining focus on Emily's safety and celebration enjoyment. The systematic approach to assessment and documentation would prove essential for navigating afternoon party activities and determining whether apparent cooperation represented genuine improvement or strategic adaptation designed to avoid consequences while planning more sophisticated boundary violations during subsequent family interactions. The afternoon birthday celebration commenced at 2 o'clock with the arrival of 15 families from Emily's school community, creating the complex social environment that would provide the most comprehensive assessment of my mother's capacity for appropriate behavior under conditions of increased visibility and accountability. The transition from private family interactions to public social engagement represented a critical evaluation phase that would reveal whether her morning compliance reflected genuine behavioral modification or strategic adaptation designed to avoid consequences during high visibility periods. The guest arrival process provided immediate opportunities for observing my mother's social presentation and her approach to interacting with community members who possessed no prior relationship with our family dynamics. The arrival greetings would reveal whether she could maintain appropriate grandmother behavior when engaging with neutral parties, while demonstrating respect for our role as hosts and primary family authorities during the celebration event. Jennifer Walsh, the mother of Emily's close friend Madison, arrived among the first guests and immediately engaged in warm conversation with my mother about Emily's academic achievements and social development at school. The interaction provided valuable assessment opportunity regarding my mother's capacity for appropriate social engagement without attempting to assert special authority or insider knowledge about family dynamics that might undermine our parental status in community settings. The initial social interactions proceeded smoothly, with my mother demonstrating appropriate interest in other families, while maintaining respectful boundaries about personal information sharing and avoiding attempts to position herself as primary authority figure regarding Emily's development or family circumstances. The social engagement revealed her understanding of appropriate behavior expectations in community settings, while providing reassurance about her capacity for respectful interaction when proper accountability structures were present. The party activity coordination included structured games and entertainment that required adult supervision and participation, while providing natural opportunities for observing family interaction patterns under conditions of shared responsibility and community oversight. The activities were designed to encourage positive participation while maintaining comprehensive assessment capabilities regarding my mother's willingness to follow household leadership and respect established boundaries. The treasure hunt activity represented the first significant test of my mother's capacity for collaborative participation without attempting to assert control over game rules or organization procedures. The activity required multiple adult volunteers to supervise different stations, while encouraging children's independent problem-solving and creative thinking within structured parameters that ensured safety and inclusion for all participants. My mother's participation in the treasure hunt revealed encouraging signs of appropriate boundary respect as she followed David's organizational leadership while providing supportive assistance to children at her assigned station, without attempting to modify game rules or assert alternative authority over activity management. The collaborative participation demonstrated potential for appropriate family engagement within established supervision structures. The craft activity provided additional assessment opportunities regarding my mother's interaction approach with Emily and other children during creative projects that required patience, encouragement, and respect for individual artistic expression. The craft attestation would reveal whether she could maintain supportive assistance without imposing her preferences or criticizing children's creative choices that differed from her aesthetic expectations. The observation of my mother's craft station interactions revealed generally appropriate behavior, with occasional moments of subtle criticism that required immediate intervention to prevent escalation into inappropriate correction attempts or undermining of children's creative confidence. The interventions were handled discreetly through redirection and positive reinforcement of supportive behavior, while documenting the pattern of minor boundary testing that suggested continued vigilance requirements. The social interaction assessment during craft activities included evaluation of my mother's capacity for respecting other parents, authority over their children, while maintaining appropriate boundaries about advice giving or correction attempts that might exceed grandmother authority in community settings. The multifamily environment provided valuable context for assessing her understanding of appropriate social boundaries and respect for other families. Autonomy. The lunch coordination required collaborative meal service that provided opportunities for observing my mother's willingness to participate in household routines and follow kitchen procedures without attempting to assert control over food preparation or serving arrangements. The meal service would also reveal her capacity for appropriate interaction with Emily during eating activities without criticism of food choices or table behavior. The lunch service proceeded with generally appropriate participation from my mother, while requiring occasional redirection when she attempted to provide unnecessary assistance to Emily with food selection or eating procedures that suggested underlying assumptions about parental inadequacy or child incapability. The redirections were handled through positive reinforcement of Emily's independence, while maintaining supportive atmosphere for all family members. The guest interaction during lunch provided additional opportunities for assessing my mother's social engagement and her approach to discussing family relationships with community members who might be gathering information about household dynamics or relationship patterns. The lunch conversations would reveal whether she could maintain appropriate discretion while demonstrating respect for our family privacy and authority. The community engagement during lunch revealed my mother's capacity for pleasant social interaction while maintaining appropriate boundaries about personal information sharing and avoiding attempts to portray herself as primary authority figure regarding Emily's development or family decision-making processes. The social interactions demonstrated awareness of appropriate grandmother behavior in community settings, while providing reassurance about her understanding of social expectations. The party entertainment included professional children's performer who required adult assistance with setup and crowd management, while providing opportunities for observing family cooperation and my mother's willingness to follow event coordination leadership without attempting to assert control over entertainment decisions or activity management procedures. The entertainment coordination revealed continued appropriate behavior from my mother, with minor instances of unsolicited advice about activity organization that required gentle redirection to maintain household authority while preserving pleasant celebration atmosphere for all participants. The intervention approaches proved effective for maintaining boundaries without creating obvious conflict that might diminish Emily's enjoyment of her special day. The gift presentation ceremony provided the most emotionally significant assessment opportunity regarding my mother's capacity for focusing on Emily's happiness and excitement, without attempting to assert special status or compete with other gift givers for primary attention and appreciation. The gift presentation would reveal whether she could maintain appropriate supportive behavior while celebrating Emily's joy and receiving presents from multiple family members and friends. The gift presentation process revealed concerning behavioral indicators as my mother began displaying subtle signs of competitive positioning and attention-seeking that suggested potential escalation beyond appropriate grandmother behavior. The concerning behaviors included attempts to provide commentary about other gifts, positioning herself for preferential photo opportunities, and making comparative statements about her gift selection process that suggested underlying tension about sharing celebration focus with other family members. The intervention during gift presentation required discrete redirection techniques designed to refocus attention on Emily's enjoyment while preventing escalation of competitive behaviors that might create conflict or diminish celebration atmosphere for other participants. The intervention approaches included positive reinforcement of appropriate behavior while limiting opportunities for continued comparative commentary or attention-seeking activities. The post-gift assessment revealed increasing signs of emotional tension from my mother that suggested growing difficulty with maintaining appropriate boundaries and sharing celebration focus with other family members and community participants. The behavioral indicators included increased restlessness, subtle criticism of party organization, and attempts to engage Emily in private conversations that excluded other family members from participation. The afternoon assessment provided concerning evidence that my mother's morning compliance represented strategic adaptation rather than genuine behavioral modification, as her capacity for appropriate behavior diminished under conditions of sustained social engagement and shared attention focus. The progressive deterioration suggested potential for significant escalation during subsequent private family interactions, when community accountability structures would be absent. The documentation during afternoon activities captured comprehensive evidence of behavioral patterns that revealed increasing tension and boundary testing behaviors despite continued surface-level compliance with stated expectations. The documented observations provided essential foundation for evaluating intervention requirements and determining appropriate response strategies for subsequent visit phases. The professional consultation with Dr. Rodriguez during brief private communication confirmed that observed behavioral patterns were consistent with manipulation strategies designed to establish credibility during high-visibility periods, while preparing for more aggressive boundary violations during subsequent private interactions. The therapeutic guidance emphasized continued vigilance and preparation for potential escalation despite apparent afternoon cooperation. The transition planning for evening activities required careful consideration of supervision requirements and intervention preparedness, while managing the increased risk profile suggested by afternoon behavioral assessment. The evening planning would need to balance family celebration continuation with enhanced safety measures designed to prevent or immediately address any escalation beyond appropriate grandmother behavior. The community departure process provided final assessment opportunities regarding my mother's capacity for appropriate social closure and her approach to managing the transition from public accountability to private family interaction. The departure management would reveal important indicators about her emotional state and likely approach to subsequent family activities during remaining visit period. The initial response assessment revealed that our comprehensive preparation and boundary enforcement strategies had successfully established clear expectations and accountability structures that enabled appropriate behavior during high-visibility social interactions, while identifying concerning indicators that suggested potential for escalation during subsequent private family activities. The systematic assessment approach provided essential foundation for managing remaining visit phases with appropriate vigilance and intervention readiness. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.